Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Nick Morrow. Some of you know me as Nicky the Eye, which is my username on both DraftKings and FanDuel. I'm here with Beat the Rake DFS, and today I'll be breaking down the UFC Fight Night Volkov versus Aspinall card. So it is a fight night, but it is technically a fight day for us Americans. This is a card that's going to take place in London, England, in the famous O2 Arena. Should be a really fun card. Tons of English and Welsh. Bunch of fighters from the UK, so the crowd's going to be going wild. It's been a while since they've had an event this big there. They did have a Cage Warriors card today, but obviously not quite as big as the UFC. So as always on this channel, I'm going to be breaking down this card with a focus on DraftKings and FanDuel. This is a DFS focused show because at Beat the Rake DFS, we're a DFS focused company. If you are not familiar with us, this is the brainchild of Zach Williamson and myself. We have a private Discord. Zach is pretty much our numbers whiz, just running projections for almost every sport. But the main thing is we're both in there in that Discord, giving you the one-on-one attention you deserve, helping you make money on DraftKings and FanDuel. And in a sport like UFC, there's a lot of edge to be had because a lot of people like to play these and they don't necessarily know what they're doing. I honestly spend hours a week breaking down each fight, watching film. It's a labor of love. I'm not complaining. But yeah, it helps us for DFS because a lot of people just look at the numbers, which is important, but there's so much nuance to MMA, DFS, and UFC in general. So yeah, let's get to breaking this down. There's only 12 fights. There was 13. But Morales against Nathaniel Wood was scratched. I think Morales got sick, and then Wood, instead of waiting on a replacement opponent, said he preferred to reschedule the fight. So just 12. Excuse me. But yeah, I feel pretty good about this one. There's a lot of good pay-ups, a few underdogs we like, and yeah, I'm pushing 70% on my picks so far for UFC this year. That's just straight picks. So that definitely translates to success in DFS. But let's get started here. The main event, Tom Aspinall against Alexander Volkov. So Tom Aspinall is headlining this event because he is the pride and joy of England. He is now a top 10 heavyweight, which is a bit surprising, but he's coming off a few nice wins. KO over Sergey Spivak, we just saw knock out Greg Hardy. He subbed former heavyweight champion Andrei Arlovsky, which is obviously a good look. But yeah, since he's been in the UFC, it's just early finish after early finish. Then on the other side of the coin, we have Alexander Volkov. Volkov's kind of a top 5 gatekeeper. And you hear that term a lot in MMA, especially in the UFC, what a gatekeeper is. There's different kinds. Like there's gatekeepers that are going to test if you should even be on a UFC roster. There's gatekeepers that are going to test if you should be ranked. And Drago Volkov here, he's pretty much a gatekeeper that's going to test if you belong in the top 5 or not. So yeah, we'll see how Aspinall looks here. I mean, Aspinall is the more likely finisher, which is going to score better for daily fantasy. Like I said, most of his wins recently have come via early finish. Volkov is a very rangy striker, super talented boxer, but very cerebral to the point that it doesn't always score well for DFS. There's another page I wanted to bring up this week, UFC Stats. This is a great page, guys. But one thing to keep in mind, if a fighter's debuting, they're not going to have any statistics. These are only statistics under the UFC banner, which means official UFC fights. I think they include the Ultimate Fighter, but also Contender Series. But here you can see, I mean, Aspinall's averaging a ridiculous 7 significant strikes landed per minute. Volkov 4.8, it's actually a pretty high number. But you just see how damn aggressive Aspinall has been. But yeah, they also have striking defense, really good defense for Aspinall. But again, that's level of competition. If you look at who Volkov's losing to, it's Curtis Blades, who's top 3 or 4, Cyril Gane, who just lost the title matchup against Francis Ngannou. So this is a huge step up for Aspinall. I'm picking Aspinall here. It's not the most confident pick. I think you do want shares of each fighter for DFS, but you do not want to play them in the same lineup. I just don't think you need to stack on this card. We're going to see a lot of finishes. So for me, I'm going to have more Aspinall. On DraftKings, he's only 8,300. That's one of my favorite plays on the slate. On FanDuel, I think he's around 19. Let me take a look. 18. So solid there as well. You could use him in the MVP spot. I don't know that I would. There's a few safer picks. Like I said, not quite a 50-50. Feels a little 60-40 to me. I know there's a lot of sharp people picking Volkov just off the experience advantage. A lot of people are like, I can't back this kid until he shows me that he can compete at this level, and he just hasn't shown it yet. But yeah, for me, it's mostly Aspinall. Let's say you're playing 10 lineups. I think I'd have Aspinall in like 5, 6, Volkov in 2 or 3. Like, you do want to hedge, especially with heavyweights. We see it every week. Like, there's more volatility to those big fellas than any other weight class. So I do think it's a fight you want exposure to. I do prefer the Aspinall side. But if you find yourself kind of looking for value, especially on DraftKings, I think you could do worse than Volkov at just 7,900. So moving right along, we will go into the co-main event. Another awesome matchup, and I really do like this card, guys. We have Arnold Allen, who's undefeated in the UFC, listed here at 17-1 against Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker spent a lot of his early career fighting at featherweight, which is where he's fighting this fight, 145 pounds. But he's had some wars at 155. If you've never watched his fight with Dustin Poirier, it's one of the best, I think, of the past 5 years. He got knocked out by Michael Chandler, but that's what Michael Chandler does. Had a nice win over Haqparast, and then Islam Makhachev kind of wrestled him to death, but that's what Islam Makhachev does. So Hooker decided to move down. I think he thinks he has a better shot at the title at 145. I tend to agree with him. But he's running into a really tough prospect here in Arnold Allen. Allen, coming off a huge win over Sadiq Youssef, where he knocked him down a bunch of times, almost got the finish. And then Nick Lentz, old Gilbert Melendez. His other ones aren't too impressive. He does have a nice split decision win over Mccann Americani, who's also on this card. Before Americani was pretty much washed. But yeah, I'm siding with Hooker here. He's actually a dog money. Like, so if you're betting, I think you can do worse than getting plus money on Dan Hooker. Very, very high volume striker. Very high volume, generally speaking, but I mean, his sample size is huge, so his numbers aren't going to look as ridiculous as an Aspinall, who's only in there against kind of weaker heavyweights. Hooker pushes 5 significant strikes landed per minute. We've seen him go 5 rounds, so we know the cardio is going to be good. And the big question going into this week was, how would he look at on the scales? And he looked great, man. He looked really, really strong. So I'm happy to go to him here. I do like Arnold Allen as well. I think I do need to hedge a bit. He's just on a tear, and I mean, we see with these young kids, it's almost parallel to Aspinall, the trajectory he's on. It's just been dominant, but at the same time, we haven't seen him tested at this level yet. So I'm signing with Hooker for that reason, but Allen at 8K is very appealing to me on DraftKings. I think FanDuel, he's a little overpriced at 17. So I'm definitely going to be going more Hooker at 14 on FanDuel. That's one of my favorite value plays on the slate. So let's move right along. Again, I'm picking Dan Hooker, probably to win by decision, but I think he can put on enough volume as a FanDuel value play to be worth it. So keep that in mind. Now let's see here. Oh yeah, we got Paddy the Baddy Pimblett taking on Rodrigo Vargas. So Paddy Pimblett is from Liverpool. He's going to be a crowd favorite here. I like the kid. He's very polarizing. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people like him. He's kind of getting the Sean O'Malley treatment. They're feeding him pretty winnable fights. Rodrigo Vargas is exactly that. Pimblett's up to over a 600 favorite right now. He's going to be one of the most popular payups on the slate. I'm predicting him to win by first round submission. I think he does it here. Is he a little overrated? Probably. But is Kazula Vargas going to be the one to expose him? I think not. I think we're going to see Paddy with a few more super easy winnable matchups, and hopefully that builds him into a contender, because I don't think he's there yet. But they're doing the right thing, the UFC is, by kind of building him slowly. He's going to be one of the more popular MVP plays on the slate. I do think he can have a first round finish here, so I think you could pay up for him on DraftKings as well. Sort by salary. I already clicked him, that's why it's not showing up. But yeah, I like Pimblett as a pay up. Just know you're going to be eating chalk with that one. I won't be hedging much Vargas. He could catch Pimblett, knock him out maybe. We've seen Pimblett knocked down a bunch of times before, but never out. So I don't know. This just feels like the UFC looking to build a fighter stock. So we take advantage of that when that happens. Gunnar Nelson has been out of action for over 3 years, but he's one of the best welterweights in the world. He's taking on Takashi Sato, who's taking his fight on short notice. The thing we like about Gunnar for DFS is he is a grappler, which means we're going to see takedowns, we're going to see submission attempts. These things generally score well. At 9,200, he's a little pricey over on DraftKings. On FanDuel, 21, again, a little pricey. I think I'd rather go to Pimblett, rather go to Topuria, but he's going to be lower owned than those guys. So there's definitely some appeal to get to him in tournaments. Takashi Sato, he's a tough guy. I'll give him a puncher's chance here. We've seen him knock out guys like Jason Witt. Really no one on the level of a Gunnar Nelson, though, that's for sure. I did rewatch his Bilal Muhammad fight, and he did okay, kind of stuffing takedowns there, but he did eventually give up his back, get choked out. Miguel Baeza choked him out. And if you look at many of Gunnar Nelson's wins, they're via submission. So I think the proof's in the pudding here. I consider him a good parlay piece. Nelson, that is. I consider him a good DFS play. He's just a little pricey. So he's not going to be too heavily exposed to my lineups, but I definitely need some shares. But yeah, another fight I'm pretty confident in. So, I mean, in terms of confidence, I definitely think Pimblett wins. I do like Gunnar Nelson to win as well. I'd say I'm a little more confident in Hooker than I am Aspinall, as strange as that sounds, but those are both really tough ones. So if you want a confident 5 picks, maybe don't use those two, but at the same time, I think Hooker or Aspinall would score really well in a win. So keep that in mind. Another main card fight here, we have Molly Meatball Mccann against Luana Carolina. Molly is a not training partner, but campmate of Patty Pimblett. I'm sure they do some grappling and things like that together, but they're really good friends. And like Pimblett, the crowd is going to absolutely love her here. So it's a true home field advantage. Luana Carolina making the flight up from Brazil. We saw her upset Lupita Godinez a little while back. You see how I got that pick wrong. She's a rangy striker, good Muay Thai stance, base, good in the clinch. Really not a good grappler though, and she doesn't like to be hit. So she's going to try to keep Molly on the end of her punches. She's a good value play. I have to say it. We keep seeing in these girl fights, they're volatile. I mean, after the heavyweights, I think the women's divisions at like the middle to lower levels are definitely the more volatile fights. So you can take advantage of that with ownership. You can play more underdogs from those types of matchups. And to me, Carolina's that here. All that being said, I am siding with Mccann to get the win. I think in her hometown, she'll eat whatever Luana wants to throw at her, take her down a few times, and just do what she needs to win. So I like Mccann here. I like both of these fighters for DFS purposes, though, again, not in the same lineup. Moving along, we have Ilia Zapori moving up a weight class to take on Jai Herbert. Don't be confused by the flag here. There's a few little dots around. That's a Georginian flag, and Jai Herbert is from England. And unlike many of the other fights on this card, the English fighter is actually a heavy underdog. Ilia Zapori is a monster. I thought he'd contend for a title at 145. He's now moving up to 155 because he hasn't been able to make the weight. Herbert, really good striker, but that's pretty much it. Topuria is going to have a huge grappling advantage here, so I think he is one of my favorite pay-ups, along with Pimblett, along with Nelson. So I like Topuria a lot. I'm going to have shares of him on both sites, but this is one of the wider lines. I think you could hedge a little bit. You could get a couple Jai Herbert lineups in there just because he's totally dirt cheap, and if he does win, it's safe to expect it comes via knockout. So love Topuria, probably one of my more confident picks on the card, but unlike some of my other confident picks, I actually think you do want to hedge with a little bit of Jai Herbert potentially if you're playing a bunch of lineups. So speaking of grappling, we have two grapplers here, Mike Grundy and Mccann Americani, fighting at featherweight, which is 145 pounds. Grundy is a training partner of Darren Till. He's the English fighter in this matchup. Americani, I mean, he had a nice run in the UFC, but I think it's coming to an end. One of the best Tapology pictures in history. Anytime you listen to a podcast about UFC, if he's fighting, I'm sure that'll be referenced. But it's undeniable. It's hilarious. Anyway, yeah, he's coming off a tough KO loss to Lerone Murphy. Got beat by a shaky prospect in Kamuela Kirk. Edson Barboza, I don't feel too badly about if I'm him. But I mean, the thing with him is his cardio has been terrible. He knows it. He said himself that he just doesn't feel like he is as well conditioned as he used to be, even though he's putting in the work. Meanwhile, Mike Grundy, I mean, today at weigh-ins looked like the best shape I've ever seen him in. He's getting up there in age. Coming off a tough split decision loss to Lando Venata, but Venata I'm pretty high on, even though he's getting up there in age as well. I like Grundy to win here. Americani is a wrestler, but he's more of a jiu-jitsu guy. Grundy's more the true wrestler grappler, and we see oftentimes the wrestlers are able to kind of hold off the jiu-jitsu players. So as long as Mccann doesn't catch him with something in the first round, I think Grundy kind of cruises to a decision win here. He's going to score multiple takedowns. Actually, I think I picked him by second round KO, so I take that back. But the more likely outcomes is the decision. I just kind of have a gut feeling we're going to see Americani gas and then get knocked out. This is a fight I would want some shares of Americani. I do think he's live for a submission. I mean, if his cardio somehow holds up all of a sudden again, then maybe he does grind out a decision. But for me, it's Grundy. I think he's fairly priced at 17 on FanDuel. Again, takedowns score well, so you want takedowns. 8,500, pretty good on DK. I think I'd rather go to Hooker at 8,200, maybe. I don't know. Grundy's safer than Mccann, but I like both. So just to give you guys some frame of reference. At the end, I'll kind of click through and give a core on each site, but I'm just ripping through these. I've been writing up fights, studying fights. It's been nonstop. For those who aren't already in our premium Discord, MMA is one of the paid channels. Every week I post all my picks. I'll post maybe like my favorite parlay, just a few bets I'm on. And we've been really good. Like I said, this is my best year since I started handicapping MMA, pushing 70%. I don't know if I could hold it up the whole season or the whole year, but I'm gonna definitely try. So come jump in. Love to chat with the guys. We're always breaking each other's balls. And I mean, we have paid NBA EPL, which is English Premier League, and MMA right now, but we'll have MLB soon. And then the good part about our Discord is all the other sports are currently free. Zach and I aren't really contributing so much to those, but we have great guys in there, especially NHL and NASCAR, esports, Team Cat. Like there's a bunch of dudes in there that know their stuff. And those channels are free to the public. So come in, mingle with those guys. And if, hey, you want to go a little deeper, you want to start DMing us, getting lineup advice and things like that, then pay. It's like $20 a month. It's nothing. So come join us. But anyway, we got another heavyweight matchup here. Again, heavyweights are volatile. Sergey Pavlovich against Shamil Abdulrahimov, both Russians. Sergey's been out of action for a few years, had a few different injuries, power puncher, super strong left hand. Shamil, pretty good striker, some power, but a bit more of a grappler. And it's not like he's shooting for takedowns. He just likes to grind his opponents against the cage. I do think Shamil is mispriced here. I'm picking Sergey to win via knockout, but as a plus 250 underdog, the value is certainly on Shamil. So I consider him a solid value play for DFS. 7,200 definitely feels too cheap. I'm not picking him to win. Just keep that in mind. But I do like him here. 9K. I'm not chasing Pavlovich much on DraftKings, but I'll have a share or two because he could starch him in 10 seconds. So you're getting that early KO bonus. Which reminds me, guys, just make sure you're checking the scoring for whichever site you're playing on. It's obviously very important. But yeah, 20 for Pavlovich on FanDuel, not my favorite play either. This fight, I just don't feel great about. Like, part of me wants to just bet Shamil because it's a bad line. Like, it should be maybe minus 200 for Sergey. But at the same time, I don't really feel like putting money on Shamil Abdulrahimov now that he's over 40 years old. Did not look good his last time out against Daukaus. Just hasn't looked good at all lately. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm more shares of Sergey. Actually, it's probably going to be close. I'll have a few shares of each, but not a fight I'm targeting heavily, even though there is some finishing upside. Nikita Krylov against Paul Craig. This is one of the tougher fights on the card to call, in my opinion. Krylov is the better striker, but he has pretty good submission ability. Craig is the better grappler, but he has pretty good striking. Krylov's definitely going to have the advantage when this fight takes place at boxing range. Really powerful kicks, really rangy. Craig's kind of slow and plodding in his stance. The thing is, Paul Craig is a monster. He's very dangerous on the mat. We've seen him take out guys like Jamal Hill, Magomed Ankalaev early in Ankalaev's career. Wins over Shogun. Mind you, Shogun's very much washed, but I mean, Craig's underrated. There's no other way to put it. I'm actually picking him to win this fight. Again, not a confident pick, but I was watching Nikita Krylov tape, and I just couldn't get over this Johnny Walker matchup. So Walker's not a grappler at all. He's a powerful striker, but Krylov got put in triangles. He was almost put in an armbar. And like, if he's in any of those positions against Craig, then he's going to be in trouble. At the same time, I get why he's favored. Definitely the better striker. Does have good takedown defense, but something just tells me at some point Craig's going to get him down. Maybe find that submission. So for me, Craig is actually one of my favorite value plays on the slate. Play multiple lineups. Don't play him in all of them, but he is probably my favorite value play here. Let's see, only 13, I think, on FanDuel. And what was it? 75 on DraftKings. Really good value play. And I think if he wins, it does come via submission. So you'll get points for that finish. But tricky fight, fun one. I'm not sure why it's buried on the prelims. Honestly, this is one of the better fights on the card, probably because there's no English fighters in it. But yeah, one I'm looking forward to. Another one I'm looking forward to, fight between two bantamweight prospects, Jack Shore, Timur Valiev. This is a true coin flip to me. I'm siding with Shore. I think he's going to have a grappling advantage. Timur is the better striker, but he's a little bit chinny, so I don't know that he's going to want to spend the whole fight on his feet. But yeah, really, really good fighters in this matchup. We're going to see really high-level stuff. I like Jack Shore a lot. I do like Timur Valiev a lot, but I'm just siding with Shore slightly. But this is the type of fight where it's close. You want to look at the prices, and we're getting both for 15 on FanDuel. Again, don't play them in the same lineup, but I'd have some of each. And then over on DK, Valiev's 8,600, which means Jack Shore's 7,600. So take back what I said about Paul Craig being my favorite value play. It's Jack Shore. Jack Shore is my favorite value play on DraftKings. Again, this is a close fight. I need shares of both of these guys. Valiev, he's going to score better with the strikes, but Jack Shore is the grappler. He's going to be pursuing takedowns, but both of these guys can back to their feet. To me, this is a fight of the night waiting to happen. Really, really looking forward to this matchup. Going to be up bright and early for this card, so keep this one circled. Definitely don't miss Jack Shore versus Timur Valiev. I'm looking forward to it, and whoever wins probably going to fight a top 10 guy, so it's definitely a fight to keep an eye on. Before that, we have Elise Reed against Corey McKenna. Corey McKenna is Welsh. She's going to be the hometown favorite here. Elise Reed, she's an ex-Army vet from the U.S. Pretty powerful kicks, decent striker, a little bit stiff in her stance. Really hasn't been tested extensively against a high level of competition. We saw her crushed by Ciara Eubanks her last time out, but that was up a weight class. So she should look better here. But McKenna, I don't know. I thought she lost her last fight. I had money on her opponent, Kay Hansen, but she surprised me. She looked really good, really strong grappler, good get up, compact stance. She trains under Uriah Faber at Team Alpha Male. So I like McKenna here. I'm going to have her in a few parlays. I think the hometown crowd will be behind her, and in a close fight, that might be enough to get her over. And yeah, Reed's decent, but I just don't see her as being that dangerous. So even if she is able to kind of touch McKenna up early, I don't know that it's going to be enough to kind of prevent the takedowns from happening. So I do like McKenna. Let's see. 8,800 is probably too expensive, though. I don't think I get there much. 74 for Elise Reed. I don't hate her as a dog. Then similar on FanDuel. 19 feels a little heavy. 12 feels okay. Not a fight I'm crazy about for DFS, but I mean, a couple young prospects. Hopefully they do well. And hopefully they all have fun. Anyway, opening fight on the card, Muhammad Mokaev against Cody Durden. Mokaev is a super prospect, born in Dagestan, raised in Great Britain. He's a wrestler, only 5-0 professionally, but he has a 20-0 amateur record. He's a world champion. Came up fighting MMA. Just look at this record. He started when he was 15 in 2015. He's now one of the youngest fighters on the roster. And he's taking on a guy in Cody Durden who's tough, who's a decent wrestler, who's going to be a tough out. But I think the key here is that Durden doesn't have the best cardio. So I'm backing Mokaev here. You always have to be a little careful with a prospect making a debut, especially when they're only 21 years old. I know my brother's taking Durden here at heavy dog odds, but I'm really high on Mokaev. I like his future as a prospect. Still rough around the edges. Would like to see him kind of shore up some of the wrestling entries. Like there's certain guys in the UFC who could catch him in guillotines and things like that, but I don't think Durden's that guy. So it's all Mokaev for me here to open the card. I will have shares on both sites, but he is very pricey. 9,100 for a 21-year-old kid you've never seen fight in the UFC before. Doesn't feel great, admittedly. But where is he? 21. But he could score well. And I mean, he's going to shoot takedowns. He's going to go for the finish, probably via submission. So, all right, guys. So just to kind of quickly go through my picks again, I'm taking Aspinall, but I do think he won some shares of Volkov. I'm taking Hooker. but another close fight. I think you want some shares of Allen. Taking a lot of Paddy Pimblett. I don't really want any Vargas. If you're playing like 150 lineups, maybe you have like 5 to 10 with Vargas just in case. It is MMA. Anything can happen. Don't get me wrong, but I'm pretty confident in Pimblett. Pretty confident in Nelson. Not going to have much Soto. Another guy with a puncher's chance. Just not someone I'm going to be that exposed to. I'm playing 20 or so lineups on each side, so I'm not going to go crazy with the underdogs. Mccann I like, but I will have some Carolina. Topuria I like a lot. I will have a lot, but I will have a couple shares of Herbert just because I do think he has a puncher's chance here. Grundy Americani is a close one. I'm leaning Grundy. I'll have more shares of him, but I do think you can head to some Americani. I think at their prices, I like Abdulrahimov more than Pavlovich, but I'm picking Pavlovich to win. So I'll have shares of each guy. Not a confident pick. Paul Craig's one of my favorite values on the slate on both sites. I do want some Krylov though. He could definitely knock out Craig here. And then Jack Shore is my favorite value on DK. They're priced the same on FanDuel, but I like Voliev as well. Another fight you're going to want both sides if you're playing multiple lineups. Same as the next one. I do prefer McKenna, but you want a little bit of Reed. And I do prefer Mikhaev, but I could see getting to a couple shares of Durden. So yeah, really fun card again, guys. I think 1 p.m. is the current lock time on both sites, but they're going to push it to 1:30. But just keep an eye on that. Make sure your lineups are set by 1 o'clock. We will be in the Discord, at least I will, giving bets and picks and things like that. If anyone wants help with their lineups and you're a subscriber, please jump in. But yeah, I'm looking forward to another fun card. I love daytime fights. I don't have to wait around for them. We got the NCAA tournament going on right now. My younger brother, that's his sport. He's very focused on the tournament right now, and they're chopping up with the guys, making bets and things like that. So jump in for that as well. I'm sorry, it's 11:30 where I am. It's been a really, really long Friday, but I'm excited for these fights tomorrow. If you're not already a subscriber, be sure to check the description here for the links to our Patreon with Beat the Rake. We're very cheap and we're very personal, and I think that's what you want in a DFS provider. We're going to help you get better no matter what level you're at right now. So jump in, get the projections, get the one-on-one access, and have a great night. Enjoy the fights tomorrow.